Right. Right. Yeah. Like I wanted to just go work at the homeless shelter, go get food and feed the hungry. But then as I got into it, I saw that I had to write to the donors, ask them for food, get their donations, and then write another letter thanking them for their donation and documenting that. So it turns into more writing than I want to, but I realized that more and more I write, the better I write and have a permanent record of it, the more likely I am to get donations to feed people or to get people to hear my voice. I know nowadays we do vlogs. Don't people do that on the internet, like YouTube vlogs, which is cool. I think
It's a vlog, but just video format.
exactly. So nothing wrong with that. But if there's a way to make it identify your voice to text while you're speaking, so it makes a transcript of it, and then hopefully speak in a way that it's sensical and it writes it out, and you got a permanent record. So it's like that's one way to do it, and be a voice for the voiceless, because you hear that a lot. I don't know if you hear it as much in criminal justice, but I feel like you do in criminal justice. Are you in Crim J?
Mm-hmm. But I don't know if you have to do that.
Like I feel like when I work with probationers and I got to talk to the probation officer, it is key to have documented, written out stuff to show how they can finish and get off probation, that they've completed their probation, and like what they did to complete treatment and probation and all that. And without that in writing to the courts, they're still on probation. Um, and if we like charge somebody with something and you don't put it in writing to the courts, then it's as if it never happened. So you might have a repeat offender because they don't get it like on record. And if you do get it on record, then it sticks with them and hopefully they get rehabilitated and never happens again. So it's just kind of food for thought, because we have a good news story from one of our social work students. And I'm going to see if I can send it to this computer. And I was telling him if he could get this documented for us to share with the dean, as he wants it to be shared. You guys might even know who he is. What semesters are you guys? All sophomores. So if the email comes, I will open it up. It probably won't because I didn't have it open. There it is. So the screenshot was good, but I'm glad nowadays we are able to, like, I was able to pull that up on my phone and like copy it like this. I think, yeah. Yeah, so the iPhone lets you, like, within a photograph now you can copy text. So it says, hello to professors. My name is Kayla, and I am an associate producer at the Kelly Clarkson Show. Have you guys ever heard of that?
Mm-hmm.
What is that?
She's the same, you know?
Oh, she was on one of them America Has Talent? Okay.
Then she's made a show.
So she has a show, which is funny because she must be doing a vlog and she uses her voice. But now she has producers that write for her. So I guess when you get super good, you get a secretary or a producer and they'll write it up for you. So the reason I'm ranting, saying how important, if you guys learn how to write amazing, you will go so far in life. And I only say it because I suck at writing. I was dyslexic and never supposed to finish high school, never supposed to finish college, never supposed to finish graduate school and or my dissertation. So like all the way through, I had challenges, but I used the writing center. I used like voice to text, and this gentleman wanted to share this with us. He is going to be on the Kelly Clarkson Show, and the producer wrote this up. And so she's taping the story this week at Firebird Community Arts Center in Chicago and their transformative program, Project Fire. I might have to search that now too. To tell the story, we're honored to be featuring Raymond on Project Fire's former participants turned success story, now that he is a college student.
Okay, you like the song?
He went, That's true.
You know him? You know her?
No,
This is a class.
it is a
Okay,
class.
Okay, I'm sorry. My student was supposed to be going to the restroom. I was trying to find an empty room. Do you know if there are any other empty classrooms right now?
The chair and secretary of the Perdomos, she can pull the list and tell you exactly which room is open. She's like, you walk to the dead end of they're like that.
Okay, the young lady over here, not James, right?
Right, either one, but she's
Okay.
real quick. She'll have the list, and so will her husband, Dr. Perdomo.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh. It almost reminds me of high school, as I went to Purcell Marion High School in 92, 93, 94, 95, 96. So I guess I'm showing my age. Didn't you have to get a hall pass? Do you guys still have to get hall passes? No? No?
We need a call back.
In high school, right?
Oh, high school.
Right.
I'm in high school.
You didn't have to get them? We had to get them. And if we didn't have them, we were busted. So sometimes we get a hall pass and sneak out like that. And then they took all the doors off the bathroom stalls because they thought people were smoking in them.
What?
Yep.
They took your doors.
Yep. Isn't that messed up? Wide open. Like, hello. Just sitting there. Yeah. It was messed up. I feel like we should have. There are a lot of things that we didn't know about our rights back there. Is that 20 years ago now? That's even longer. 20 years ago. That's 30 years ago. So, this gentleman did get the producer to write up this email, but so Kelly Clarkson was on America's Most something. And so now I want to search this though. Have you guys heard of Project Fire? I haven't either. All right. So things that you can do in social work. So do we only have 3 social work majors and then your criminal justice, which is very, very, very simple. Are you? Psychology. That's right, because I convinced those of you who are in psychology only because I got a psychology degree. And when I graduated, I could do absolutely nothing with it. I was frustrated. Nobody told me about doubling up. If I double majored, I would have gotten license and things that were possible. So let's look up Project Fire. I've never heard of this. Speaking of, we're in chapter 6 on social justice. Maybe they have videos too. Or so you're saying she has a radio show. It's not a video show. That's Kelly Clarkson.
You know Ellen? Yeah, it's like that show.
Oh, it is video then.
Yeah.
So is this her? Okay. So Kelly Clarkson. I've never heard of her. That's what I'm saying. Huh?
Do you know the song, What Doesn't Make You Stronger?
Well, I know that phrase, yeah. So she made it into a song. So is this it? Like is she,
Her. She's on the voice, yes.
so she did better with the show than like making music and selling it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But you have to watch her on Peacock. Oh, do they make a new Jurassic Park?
Mm-hmm.
That's hilarious. That movie came out like 30 years ago. So she looks like that. Huh. She went from Injuine to pop legend. Where is she from? Dang, did she lose a bunch of weight or something? Like how much? Because she looks like 50 pounds different. Okay. So our social work student is going to be on this show. That's where the music is. That's it. Okay. Why is it not working now? Huh. Oh, so she was like a teenager then too. Huh.
I'm really surprised you never heard from. How I heard from True Night.
That's what I'm saying. It's hard to keep up. Okay, so she was on The View too. So she was like 18, 19, became famous, sang, made Whatever Doesn't Kill You Makes You Stronger, started a talk show.
And she only started the show like recently.
Okay. Probably because you need to keep on making money. You can't just like sing one song. I guess some people could sing one song. Oh, here's where it's on mute. I see it. Why is it on mute? Interesting. Huh. I am no speakers or headphones. That's funny. All right. So long story short, we were asking the gentleman for writing about going on the show because it's a big deal.
A song that makes her want to turn up the radio. Her answer? Anything from Jagged Little Pill by Alanis Morissette. According to Clarkson, her conservative family barred her from listening to Morissette, a female rocker known for her provocative, angst-ridden lyrics. But this gal isn't one to follow the rules. It's a good thing Clarkson decided to go against her family's wishes and listen to Morissette, because she now credits the Canadian-born songstress with helping Clarkson become the songwriter she is today. The songstress told Entertainment Weekly, Alanis took it way past the line of what women talk about in songs. How
So
you
she's
sing a
country.
song is so dirty and raw. It made me a better writer. It made me a better
I want to
singer.
hear one of her songs
Where do
now,
I sign?
just because. So American Idol, there it is. Okay, we were saying. What I have to look up. So tomorrow he'll be on Project Fire, in Chicago. Oh, it is trauma. Okay, for gun violence. So, any of you guys from Chicago or close by? Never mind. But I didn't realize they had a trauma recovery program. And that's a big success story. So if you want to see another thing you can do as a social worker, this is one.
Imagine being a teenager who's just been shot. Your life has been on the streets, and now you're at a turning point.
That was the story for two young men you're about to meet. They each found their way by creating arts from fire. Take a look.
There's nothing right now to me. But at first it was like, man, I can make this. Now I know how to make bases and cups and bowls.
Deontay Holman also knows how to fight fire with fire. Just about 8 years ago, he was a kid, spending a lot of his time on the streets until he got shot and ended up in the hospital.
Mom,
What's that? Oh, the glass blown. Because when we were teenagers, they only use it for like glass bowls, but I don't know if they make those anymore.
So like I was going crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like having like breakdowns, feeling like don't nobody care about me.
At just 14, he had to make a decision about where the rest of his life would go.
I'm shot up, I'm hurt. What else I'm gonna do? Like I'm gonna go back to the streets again, messed up again.
He didn't want that, so instead he came here to Chicago's East Garfield Park neighborhood, where he found Firebird Community Arts and Project Fire.
And this right here is like
It's a trauma recovery program that partners with the violence recovery group Healing Hurt People Chicago. Hospital social workers and psychologists meet with young people who've been shot and help them process their trauma and rebuild. Twice a week, there's 3 hours of creating glass art and 1 hour of counseling.
That's pretty cool art.
See it make a sizzle.
But why glass art?
It does something for especially young people who are drawn to risk behavior. Whatever it is that's going on in your life and in your mind and in your heart before you come in, kind of needs to sit aside while you blow glass, because it's a hot, dangerous thing and we need to focus on it.
It's just a place you can get away, like, from your problems.
After he was shot 7 years ago, Linquel Biggs couldn't even watch TV for fear he'd see images of people getting hurt. He says the staff at Project Fire has helped him get through that.
They go above and beyond, like, they do stuff that they ain't gotta do.
We can talk about hard things because I've seen that you keep me safe and I keep you safe and we can make things together.
Project Fire's extended family is the East Garfield Park community. The artists and their neighbors have embraced each other.
And then the wonderful people who live here, there's families all along the streets that border us and young kids, and we, are opening our doors to them and hope to do more public programming.
That works for both Deontay and LA, who now are Project Fire instructors and professionals who sell their art. But it's the feeling of security that Project Fire gives them which has made all the difference.
We'll come here, I can feel down about some stuff that's going on at home, but they gonna make sure like life get better. Like before you leave, after you leave here, you're gonna be most definitely happy for sure.
I just want to be able to keep doing this or do something good in life.
Love that story. That was Andrina Vegas reporting. As much as they love their current home, the Stafford Community Arts trying to raise money to move to a new, larger facility soon. All of these people are so dedicated, and they must be. It can get as hot as 90 or 95 degrees in that workroom, but very important, there are fans going, and everyone is reminded to stay hydrated.
I was always the competitive one in our family. So my sister signed up for United Healthcare, Medicare.
So that is Project Fire. I didn't, what's that? Yeah. Right, yeah, the code of ethics.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where do we find the PDF of this code?
Right here on the NASW, which means National Association of Social Workers. So just a search of it, and that'll pop up. So you can download it that way, if that helps. Code of Ethics. Hmm? Or W Code of Ethics. So, right, yeah. So you look at what the Code of Ethics has you do, what the ethics are, and say one of the things in the code that would be easy for you to do and identify with, like they give one we read last week about like not stealing from your clients or not having sexual encounters with your clients and things of that nature, which a lot of people say that makes total sense, would be easy to do. And then one that may be challenging for you to do. And for some, it was the code here where it says not doing like a hug in the middle of a therapy session. Something like that would be a tough one. Or, passing my cousin on if they came into my social work agency and wanted to be seen. I would want to see them, but then that's a dual relationship. So we got to give them to another social worker.
So figure out what's one that's understandable, and then figure out one that's not so understandable, and then there's a task.
So maybe a page and a half on one that like makes sense and you think you could do, and then do another page and a half on ones that you think could be challenging or harder to do, but you understand why they have it in there.
Okay. All right.
And that should be the gist of it. And so these agencies that I'm showing you here too also would have to have a code of ethics. These look to have social workers. So I'm going to do one more because I've never heard of this. Obviously it's in Chicago, but it's interesting to me that they're doing this here. That is cool to make blown glass.
Glass blowing is particularly effective in working with students who've been exposed to traumatic experiences, partially because of the risk that's involved in working with the material. It's potentially dangerous. We're working with 2,000-degree molten material. It requires quite a level of trust to be able to work with the material.
Learn how to walk again, like, and try to run again, all that. That's like, that's like the worst. Like, the bullet's on my leg right now. Like, I've been like kind of starting to change my life around. Like, ever since like a lot of people, I've been losing a lot of people and stuff like that. Glass blowing, I have to do that because they'll be like, you don't look like you blow glass or something like that. But I can show them better than I can tell them. Like, people look at you different too. Like, he ain't just trying to be out in these streets. He trying to really do something with his life and stuff.
My end-all goal for the students here is that they see other opportunities for themselves in any field, in any medium, in any way. They see a sense of future.
Hey, Alexa, looks good. What do you think? It's a nice shade, man.
What's that? It's cool, you said? I think so. So it's interesting because in trauma, they say to use a sensory-based approach, which could be art, anything that will use your right brain, even like gardening, horticulture therapy, something that would unleash the trauma that's stored in our memory. Is a lot of times, if we have a trauma as a kid, adolescent, baby, or anything, like it's our brain tucks it away, or you don't want to remember it. Like you want to forget about it. Like my messed up experience as a kid or whatever being brought up, and we forget about it. So in order to remember and then process it, it might take sensory-based things where you're like exposing your brain to stuff that would be stored on the right side of your brain. That's why they say a lot of left-handers are artistic, because the right side of your brain stores like artism and also trauma. And until we use, drawing or horticulture therapy or digging in the soil, that memory might not ever be released. And so that's why it's important to use a trauma or a sensory-based approach to unleashing that trauma. I want to see if I can send this one to her. Isn't that weird? You can send this between devices. Like I can send from this computer to that, and it pops up in a new window. I can copy it and put it in my email to Dr. Winbush. So, any other questions about the code of ethics? Here's the whole code.
Yeah. Can you look at this and see if it's
Oh, the NASW code of ethics. It should be NASWR. Yeah.
look
Yep,
accurate?
that's it.
Okay.
Yep, that's the exact one. Oh yeah, I can give them the video we watched in case they missed it. Does it show the online transcript after? There we go. Okay. Are there any ones in there that do make sense why we have them in the code of ethics that you guys see? The different ethical principles?
Is that one right here? It says, social workers, that's the inherent dignity and worth of the person. Is that one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, 'cause it's professional, right?
Mm-hmm.
Social workers that can have bias. Yeah.
So the social justice is, have a good one. Kind of the theme in chapter 6, and we're getting through the mandate for social justice. And one of the things we were finishing up on is the discrimination. We had a few on elder discrimination, and then disability discrimination. And there is a big breakthrough in one of the cases with Geraldo Rivera. Have you guys ever heard of Geraldo Rivera? I can't even spell his name. He is an older gentleman, and he broke into Willowbrook. So there's a few quick stories about Willowbrook, but as we can see, it's still affecting folks with disabilities today. Do any of you guys have like a friend, relative, or even cousin with a disability, be it autism, Down syndrome, or cerebral palsy? Is often when you're in the wheelchair, but your mind is fully there. So let's see here. I want to find you one of them that has a quick brief on it, but there's several, and there's still a lot of discrimination stories on that today. So I wanted to show you guys this because it is still shocking.
Hi, everybody, I'm Geraldo Rivera, and this is my friend Bernard Carabello. And aside from the fact that we're both Latins from Manhattan with mustaches, Bernard and I share something in common. Half a lifetime ago, back in January 1972, our paths crossed inside a horrible institution for the mentally retarded called the Willowbrook State School on Staten Island. At the time, the largest institution for the retarded in the world. Despite the fact that it was in New York City, it was also one of the worst. Bernard had just turned 21 years old. He had just, when I met him, forced authorities in the institution to sign him out of that wretched place in which he had spent the last 18 years of his life inside Willowbrook since the age of 3. He'd wasted those years inside that awful place. It was the tragic result of Bernard's being incorrectly diagnosed as mentally retarded. Though his act
Like a lot of them, they didn't put them properly. They were barely fed well. This guy got it shut down. So he's reporting on it many years later. But this was, within my lifetime, really, too. So in the 70s.
condition, cerebral palsy. There's nothing wrong with Bernard's brain. But in those dark days, folks, as you probably know far better than I do, all institutions of its type were giant catch-alls, kind of warehouses for children with all different kinds of ailments or conditions. If a kid wasn't perfect, places like Willowbrook existed, where they could be sent out of sight, maybe out of mind, certainly out of the house, out of the neighborhood, and out from under the feet of those parents and families. Over the long years since the first Willowbrook exposés, I have learned not to blame parents for what was happening to their children back then. The institution was just what society in those days felt the best alternative for people with developmental disabilities, kind of a theoretically benign warehouse where their care could be mass-produced and they could live out their almost certainly shortened lives. That system went along benefiting from a conspiracy, I think, of silence, a conspiracy of silence among the states, the families, the staffs of the various institutions, and the media for decades. Then in the 1960s, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, whose own sister Rosemary, as you recall, was retarded, visited Willowbrook as a senator from the great state of New York. Senator Kennedy was appalled by the horrible conditions he saw. He called it at the time a snake pit. Still, the boys, the girls, the men and women inside, the inmates of Willowbrook, languished in conditions that were more reminiscent of a concentration camp or a kennel than a hospital. Before I go any further, for the benefit of the younger members of our audience, I'd like you to see what they saw back in 1972. What they saw was forced them really to deal with the situation they were looking at. Let's flash back 33 years.
I visit the State Institution for the Mentally Retarded. I think that particularly at Willowbrook that we have a situation that borders on the snake pit and that the children live in still.
I first heard of this place with a pretty sounding name because of a call I received from a member of the Willowbrook staff, Dr. Mike Wilkins. The doctor told me he'd just been fired because he'd been urging parents with children in one of the buildings, building number 6, to organize so they could more effectively demand improved conditions for their children. The doctor invited me to see the conditions he was talking about, so unannounced and unexpected by the school administration, we toured building number 6. The doctor had warned me that it would be bad. It was horrible. This is what it looked like. This is what it sounded like, but how can I tell you about the way it smelled? It smelled of filth, it smelled of disease, and it smelled of death. How long have you been at Willowbrook? 18 years. How long were you given physical therapy in school?
5 years.
Are you still going to school?
No.
Why?
I'm over age.
You're too old?
Yes.
Would you like to go back to school?
Yes, I do.
What would you want to learn if you went back to school?
Learn not my reading more.
Learn how to read?
Yes.
How is it living on the ward that you live?
Disgrace.
It's a disgrace?
Yes.
Why?
The conditions are getting worse every time you cut the budget more and more.
The Willowbrook story and the years of television follow-ups ultimately had a profound impact on the way society cares for the developmentally disabled, as you know. Not just because the old way was horrible, but also because humane, progressive alternatives existed, for example, in the form of community care, one-to-one housing, and other non-institutional models. And in selecting which was most appropriate, the most articulate advocates turned out to be the consumers themselves. That's what Bernard, in fact, does right now for a living. He works for the state of New York, keeping those politicians honest. So, buddy, first of all, how are you doing?
Okay. Great.
Who are the best advocates for the developmentally disabled?
The parents and the consumers themselves.
Parents and consumers themselves. Why is it?
Because they know what they want and they know what they need for themselves. And now they know how to make choices
So he has cerebral palsy. His brain is fully functioning. It's just when you're born with cerebral palsy, you may have tightening of certain muscles, which can make you unable to walk, harder to talk, and sometimes lack of use of one of your arms or limbs. So he has oftentimes a full college degree and things of that nature. You can write all the papers, do all the work. It's just the speaking in general that's the challenge.
And to make choices. And the choices available far more humane, progressive than they were in your day.
Oh, yeah. And they get more and more progressive.
So life's good.
Yes.
Thank you. So just as Willowbrook took more than government action alone to fix, full inclusion of people with disabilities within society must come as a result of the continued action of brave individuals like Bernard, people who don't let their disability stand in their way. What's also profoundly necessary is that they get the protection and advocacy efforts of agents and organizations like your superb National Disability Rights Network. We salute you for the work you do. You are the future. We're glad to be part of your evening tonight. For Bernard and me, thanks very much for listening.
So a lot of social work jobs are actually located in the area of developmental disabilities. I didn't realize they made a full documentary about Willowbrook, but they did.
I heard the school hired a new reading.
And so this is, getting into the homework assignment. It talks about the dignity of the human person. It talks about identifying everybody as the human side of them, and it's important to do that. Hello, how are you? How's it going? That's good. That's okay. I was going to give a chance to go and work on your paper anyhow. So, any questions about the Code of Ethics paper, just so we have them answered for you? Oh, why does the Mac make it so challenging? Because that brings us to the end of chapter 6 and what social workers have to do for social justice. So the mandate for social justice, we advocate for improved social conditions. Certainly that's what he did here in the Willowbrook scene. Promote social justice and encourage participation in the democratic process. So that's some of the stuff he was covering. Because as you can see, and this is a quick piece of the trailer, but you can see how bad the conditions were when Geraldo Rivera went into Willowbrook. This is just a 2-minute one. And they changed that. It's like a horror movie almost. It's kind of scary.
State institution for the mentally retarded. And I think that particularly at Willowbrook that we have a situation that borders on a state pet, that the children live in filth, but many of our fellow citizens are suffering tremendously because of lack of attention, lack of imagination, lack of adequate manpower. Very little future for the children or for those who are in these institutions. Both need tremendous overhauling. I'm not saying that those who are the attendants there or the ones that run the institution are at fault. I think all of us are at fault. And I think it's just long overdue that something be done about it.
So this is up in New York. He had to go in with it. He had to break into.
More than 6 years since Robert Kennedy walked out of one of the wards here at Willowbrook and told newsmen of the horror he'd seen inside. He pleaded then for an overhaul of the system that allowed retarded children to live in a snake pit. But that was way back in 1965, and somehow we'd all forgotten.
Yeah, that was a common term back in 1965. Like, it's not, what do you call it now? You can't use that. Retarded means an IQ below 70, but now we often say developmentally disabled, they have developmental delay, or something else. But here, yeah, they still use the term retarded.
I heard of this big place with a pretty sounding name because of a call I received from a member of the Willowbrook staff, Dr. Michael Wilkins. The doctor told me he'd just been fired because he'd been urging parents with children in one of the buildings, building number 6, to organize so they could more effectively demand improved conditions for their children. The doctor invited me to see the conditions he was talking about, so unannounced and unexpected by the school administration, we toured building number 6. The doctor had warned me that it would be bad. It was horrible. There was one attendant for perhaps 50 severely and profoundly retarded children, lying on the floor naked and smeared with their own feces. They were making a pitiful sound, the kind of mournful wail that it's impossible for me to forget. This is what it looked like. This is what it sounded like, but how can I tell you about the way it smelled? It smelled of filth, it smelled of disease, and it smelled of death. We've just seen something that's probably the most horrible thing I've ever seen in my life. Is that typical of ward life? Yes, there are 5,300 patients at Willowbrook, which is the largest institution for the mentally retarded in the world. The ones that we saw were the most severely and profoundly retarded. There are thousands there like that, not going to school, sitting on the ward all day, not being talked to by anyone.
So he kind of broke the story of that and got them to change. There's still today bad conditions that you see in Willowbrook, as you can see by even the documentary that is current day. So any questions for the paper? I want to give you guys a little chance. You got a half an hour left still, so you can actually get a chance to work on it right now. Let's see here. I'm just answering the questions online too. So, oh yeah, because our midterm grades are due on Friday. Dang. It seems so fast, doesn't it? We're already 35% done with the whole semester. Like almost 40% done. You ready to be done? I think we all are. I get that. All right. Well, you guys have a good one. I'll see you on Thursday. Already Thursday. Oh, we gotta make one of those. What's that?
I won't convert.
I'm gonna send the code of ethics to the chat. So see ya. Oh, you can sign in right here. I think they put it right there though.